Welcome to Purdue Crop Chat, a regular podcast from Hoosier Ag Today and the Purdue University Extension Service, featuring Purdue Extension soybean specialist Dr. Shaun Casteel and Extension corn specialist Dr. Dan Quinn. Now your host for Purdue Crop Chat, Hoosier Ag Today's Eric Pfeiffer.
We're back on the Purdue Crop Chat. It's been a little while, and we are happy to be here. Eric Pfeiffer from Hoosier Ag Today, from the Indiana Corn and Soybean Innovation Center, and we do thank our sponsors, the Indiana Corn Marketing Council and Indiana Soybean Alliance. The stars of the show are here, Dan, Corn, Quinn. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Eric.
And Soybean, Shaun Casteel. Shaun, how's it going?
Well, I'm doing well. Thanks,
Good,
Eric.
good. Hey, we need to address some things here. It has been a while. We've been apart. We've all been just really busy. You guys go out on your speaking tour. You leave me behind.
We don't invite you on that.
making your millions and not wanting to share it. That's what happens on the speaking tour, right? We also need to address this. Apparently, we have an award winner amongst us. We do have an award winner.
We have two award winners.
Do we have two award winners? I didn't get anything. Shaun won something too?
Shaun won something too.
Well, see, I only see. Apparently, they only want to put you out there, Dan. They don't want to talk about Shaun.
I'm out the pasture. I'm the old bull.
I see here. Well, first off, Shaun, what'd you win? What did we get? Dan, do you want to introduce this?
The Tri-Society Award. Yeah.
Okay.
Extension Award. Yeah.
So Crop Science Extension Award. So our National International Society.
That's National International.
That's big time.
Yeah.
You're nothing now, Dan.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, no disrespect to this Eric Charvel. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
No disrespect, but I mean, international award. Ooh,
yeah.
Damn, yikes.
I got a few more wisdom hairs than him, so it's all right.
Hey, there's some time to catch up.
Is also, internationally renowned.
Renowned, yes.
Award winning.
Award winning. Well, I saw in here that Daniel Quinn, Assistant Professor of Agronomy and Extension Specialist, received the 2025 Eric G. Charvel Distinguished Extension Specialist Award. Easy enough for me to say. It recognizes a specialist who has served the people of Indiana by demonstrating proficiency and professionalism. Win.
Well, they haven't come to this podcast, have they?
Along with a track record of excellence in programming. Now, it does say down here, I hate that it is buried a little bit, but it says, you also demonstrate innovative outreach through your presence on digital platforms like X, like your website, your newsletter, and your work as the co-host of the Purdue Crop Chat.
All right.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, when you gave the acceptance speech, where was I?
If I had an acceptance speech, but I didn't have an acceptance.
Okay.
If I was there, it would be the top. I'd like to thank Eric Pfeiffer for this award.
I was thinking, like God, wife, parents, me, several others, Shaun. I think that's where I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You didn't get your own BFF, did you?
But no, this is congratulations, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Though they didn't want to, publish Casteel.
I guess not.
Keep it hidden. Keep it hidden. Let's talk about the year that was. It went fast.
Yeah.
It went really fast, and I know,
scary.
So fast that again we didn't get around again to really record one there toward the end, because man, it just it came and it went, and we've got numbers from USDA. Dan?
Yes, Dan. What do you think of your number?
No comment.
What do you think of this number from USDA and Indiana's corn yield?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts,
What a
you
perfect,
got your award. You can really let loose.
What
now.
a perfect outlet for those thoughts.
Yeah, it's the November report. I think we still have the January report left to come. Again, it's the same sentiment I've had all year. I've always thought the number for Indiana is too high, and 206 bushel would be state record. And if this year is a state record, then I must be missing something, because we do trials all across the state. We've had get the great opportunity to travel around the state and have a lot of conversations with folks around the state. And there's some areas and farmers I've talked to that have said this is one of their better years, but it's not the majority. A lot of areas struggled. A lot of areas were, just our trials in general. I don't know of a single location anywhere in the state that our trial yields were where they were the last couple of years, and some that were significantly lower. Southeastern part of the state, which is an area that, in the right conditions can have really good yields. That part of the area, that part of the state struggled. East part of the state, and then there's kind of areas that struggled with planting and those aspects, and then there's other areas. I think central part of the state, I don't know, probably not much anymore, but was almost, I don't know, D2, D3 drought. You look at the back half of the season, just how dry it got in a lot of areas, and then you bring in, layer in some of the disease, predominantly southern rust that reared its head in a lot of areas. That again, that's an estimate. That's what it's called. But when you compare it to where we were in the past and just overall comparisons from the numbers we have and the conversations we have, it's just not, in my mind, a state record yield year.
And I know, Shaun, the sentiment is similar on the soybean side, but USDA might be a bit closer on that number.
Well, we can put the rewind on, right? We can go back to the August report, and you put us to task and what our number was. Do you remember what I said our number was?
No,
then?
I told you to write it on the board back there. I don't remember things like this.
My number, and it hasn't changed, was 58.5 was my forecast for Indiana. In August, it was 62, if I recall correctly, and maybe go down a bushel or two, and then we shut down for a while. November report, drum roll, 59.
59.
So I think, it's within a half bushel what I was anticipating, and I think that's more reasonable. That's certainly above a yield trend. It is not state record by any means, and so I don't have that beef like you do, Dan. But I'll echo the same things that you said, though, right? We had areas that did yield well. Trial-wise, I'll do the same kind of thing. I had good yields on some. I broke 90 and 100 on a couple of spots, but not like large amounts, right? And then there's a lot of same field that had those kind of yields, didn't have the water. We were around the mid-70s. So again, water was a big deal, both sides of it, too much and too little. So we had areas that 6 inches of rain in that May period and June, and you couldn't plant until June. And then the Northwest was D1, D2 easy, and so that took it on its chin. I was cutting beans on some sand ground. I was lucky to get 50, 45 on some of those. So it was pretty tough all the way around. In addition to those that had late plantings and any other issues, and then let's go ahead and throw it down hard whenever we had dry conditions late. Right, we shut down. Water's going to really rule the day on that in terms of senescence process, and so. We don't have water, those beans are shutting down much faster. They're going to cannibalize, very similar to what you have, Dan. And so then we had another year of dry grain too. So yields overall, fair. I say individual fields, we probably took it on the chin a little bit more, probably 2 or 3 more bushels because we didn't have the water weight too.
And I do want to come back to your southern rust comment because it was very prevalent. But what about disease pressure in soybeans? It was an interesting year, kind of dry and then, wet throughout. It really was just different in every part of the state. And I don't think that there were any sustained, stretches of wet weather. Sure. You'd get one big one every once in a while, and that would hold you for a little while.
Yeah. Well, and part of that, I think, comes back to you flat just didn't have a crop in the ground. So then it was delayed planting, some prevent plant even. Those that were able to plant, I think about the Southeast farm, we had some trials there, and so we're going to roll the dice, and then it let loose, and 3 days later, they're rotted. So we're going to just have to wait till they come out of that and dry out and replant. As far as diseases overall, though, there wasn't any widespread. We're seeing it across. Corn really rules the day in that regard, as whether it's southern corn rust or it's tar spot or anything like that. Had a few pockets that are going to have the white molds, but red crown rot showed up again. There's a few other counties that are, again, popped on Darcy's map. There's some interesting aerial imagery that's like when it hit in a major way. Pretty devastating.
Yeah. Southern rust. It's being talked about everywhere at this point because that's just about where it was. It was everywhere. It made it up into Michigan.
South of Minnesota, I think it made it all the way up there.
Yeah. Made it up north. I'm still curious on the Iowa yield I have a lot of colleagues at Iowa State, and I have a lot of conversation with folks out in Iowa, and everyone I've talked to out of Iowa has said, yields are not close to what they thought they were going to be. And, I would say Illinois, these Midwestern states were a lot worse. Other mid-I states were a lot worse than we were in terms of southern rust. Yeah.
I'm hearing the same thing from some farmers out there in Iowa, that this southern rust thing just came and hit them like a ton of bricks. And
like
man,
they
it's
were
been tough.
expecting like the best crop they've ever seen. It tracked that way a lot of the year. Come harvest, there's a lot of reports of orange combines coming out of fields and having yields at 20, 30 bushel less than what they thought they were going to be.
That wasn't because of bags of Cheetos or anything.
No, not bags of Cheetos. No.
I think you mean dinner.
Okay.
I guess the thing to keep in mind with southern rust, it's not like tar spot. Next year is a new year, and it doesn't just stay there like tar spot does. Yeah. We have to have the right conditions again, what we had this year, right? So trying to plan for it.
Yeah.
Do we need to?
Yeah. The thing about southern rust, and we touched on this, and why I always stress, listen to Darcy and the plant pathologist, because something like southern rust, you kind of get a pulse on where it's at and the way it's moving out of the south. The faculty, the pathologists in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, down there, they're usually going to see it first, and then a lot of times it'll move from those southern storm systems and work its way up that way in terms of patterns. And I think we were relatively warm and above average on temperatures this year, so I think that kind of drove why we saw southern rust and expansiveness, and why we really didn't see tar spot that much. Tar spot, there's some pockets, but it really wasn't around. Northern corn leaf blight was pretty minimal too, which is more of a cooler season disease as well. So southern rust, I would say you can kind of get some of a gauge of where it's moving and where it's at, because you can kind of see it. It's in Mississippi, and then it's in Tennessee. You can see it in Kentucky, and then then you have a pretty strong idea it might move. What was unique about this year is just how far it moved. All the way to northern parts of the state. Up at our Penny Research Farm, we had a lot of southern rust at the rice farm. We had some trials up there near La Crosse. We worked its way up to Michigan. So, it's not a silver bullet, but I would say listen to those plant pathologists, because they are tracking it and monitoring it as it moves its way north.
It really was just an interesting year and how it all played out. What would you say was the biggest detriment to yield? Was it the southern rust? Was it just the conditions throughout the year? What do you see as the biggest detriment to yield, even though apparently we're going to be at a state record?
What? Just hold on here.
Hey,
we're at state record.
That's a heck of a question if I've ever heard it.
206 state record. What was detriment to the yield? I mean, you are doing your job as a reporter here. Really bringing.
I'm asking the follow-up questions, baby. That's what I'm. He said it. Yeah. So, he said the yield just isn't there. He's missing people. He's not talking to the big producers.
I'm going to skip that one. If there was this much detriment, where should it have been? 215, 220?
What was Iowa? They were like 220. That's the report.
Yes. What was the detriment to this record?
What are we talking about detriment for? I come back. Probably the more widespread issue was I come back to the eastern part of the state and getting started this past year. Just planting was real tough over there. A lot of June planted, replanted corn, June planted corn stuff just got off to a tough start. And you combine with getting off to a tough start, stuff that's replanted. I know there's stuff that was mudded in. We talked a lot about this in terms of shallow root systems and stuff like that. And in a lot of those areas, they had a tough start. And then the faucet shut off on them as well, and it got dry towards the end of the season. So that's, kind of a perfect storm as well. We had some areas actually in, kind of the Tipton area, central Indiana, as well, that caught 6-7 inches of rain at one point. Had severe, I remember walking through calls with them in terms of, nitrogen losses in those areas and going on. So I think it a lot of it starts from the east part of the state that struggled just getting started in terms of planting and the conditions and the delayed planting. And then I think you bring in some of the disease aspects that impacted it during the season.
I think I asked you for one. I asked what
One?
the biggest detriment was. No, I know. It all just piles on.
Yeah,
it all just
piles on. And then, ended up in a drought in the back end of the season. But I think a lot of it had to do with the start that we had in a lot of areas.
What about you, Shaun?
I think when you have a compressed growing season, it's hard. It's hard to really maximize that yield. And so a late start and an early finish, that's not the combination for bin busting yields. And so I think that's a main storyline. I think I'll hit the droughty areas up in the Northwest.
The drouthy?
The drought. Oh, I forgot about that. It has been a while if I set you up for that. I normally don't do that. The droughty areas early on, and the June period I think about, and again, we can appreciate if there's enough of an establishment and the roots can grow down deep, that's a good thing if the water comes back. But I'd say by and large, that root system went as deep as it could, but was still kind of capped, right? I don't think it was one that, okay, I grew deep for a few weeks and then rain came back and then I've got a moderate sized plant. And so a lot of those areas they got as deep as they could, and then they just they survived. And again, they yielded fair from 50s, 60s, some 40s, depends on if they're sandy in texture. So I think that was the case. I think of going down to the southeast on the later plantings or the replants. And, I was driving down the highway field day season, and there's beans that are V4, V5, and there's beans that are R4, R5. So, I mean, just a wide variety in terms of growth stages. And, you're in the middle to late August and you're still vegetative stages. You're just flat not going to yield, right? So I think that was a big part of our yields and that switch from the high to low. But that's the worst. That means that we still had some really good yields. Again, we had areas that got out timely. We had some April plantings. They got adequate rains. They didn't get the 6-inch ones. They got the little bit of a tail that came over for an inch or two. And so, I mean, they've got some 80, 85 bushel beans. And so when you get at 59 bushels at the state level, that's still pretty good yields.
I think we talked about this on the last episode. I was talking to a farmer right here in Tippecanoe County that it was, don't give me a bunch of rain. Just give me just enough. and that's ultimately kind of what we got here. I don't know, amongst all of your research trials around the state, and maybe this is the norm. Tippecanoe County is up here in kind of a prime spot, some prime soils up this way. But I would imagine that was kind of the case with your trials as well, that maybe up here we got just enough, and that's where the biggest yields were in this part.
Yeah, definitely this part of the state. And then even kind of, I was in Covington this morning and Park County, Fountain County, those areas down in Terre Haute, those are pretty good yields throughout there, and they had pretty good conditions in comparison. They were able to get planted pretty timely.
Yeah, I call those kinds of race flats. Those areas, a lot of them can really get going.
I was talking to folks from Park County today. They were talking about how they were able to get much earlier. They had much earlier planting in those areas. And I remember driving through that area this summer and just noticed how good the crops looked kind of in that pocket. So yeah, there was definitely some areas, but we kind of said, I've been saying this all year, depending on where you were this year, because it was all over the board, depending on where you were at in the state. But kind of that west central down kind of to the western side of the state is where we did see some pretty strong growing conditions and pretty good yields.
And, speaking of where you were at, you were in Covington earlier today.
I was.
And I don't see a single beef house roll here.
No strawberry jam, no beef
had
house.
some in the truck, and it's about an hour drive, and get a little hungry.
Oh, so the one that you held back for Shaun and for me.
Yeah.
The one that you were going to make us share, you decided. Shaun, same question to you. I assume that this area was a hot spot as well.
No, it definitely was in terms of yield potential and high side. We had our CCA conference that we help organize on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we got to talk with a lot of people across the state, and a handful of folks saying, it was some of their best beans that they've ever had. Some were like, we were able to get out there early and get rolling. Some changes that have occurred. So we've talked about some of the troublesome areas. So think about the droughty areas in the Northwest, and then the Southeast having rains that are 1 inch. It feels like 4 or 6 inches. But even with some of those guys down there, conversations had that they've kind of changed a little bit. Some of the guys have changed a little bit how they're approaching the soybeans down there. And so they're pushing the planting dates, but they're pushing up the maturity groups. And so they're kind of getting past some of the stressful heat stress that can go down in that southeast part of the state. So even those fields, so again, I just mentioned some are V4, some are R4. Well, guess what? Probably the ones that are R4 were earlier planted and early maturing. And so before they got any of this 6-7 weeks of dry weather and heat, they were able to finish that crop off. So not only yields were pretty good in that way, but they were able to catch some old market price too, some profitability, which, $10, $50, $11 beans is a good thing.
Absolutely. And, this week, as we sit here and talk on a Friday afternoon, we went back below $11 in soybean futures, and it's frustrating trying to find that marketplace. But guys, let's take a time out here on the Purdue Crop Chat, and when we come back, let's talk about your travels, your speaking circuit, where you are making the millions and refusing to share with me.
If you know where those millions are, just let us know.
They're in an account undisclosed to any of us.
Yeah,
they go straight to Matt Painter and others.
Dan's going to be in the news for something else now.
I'm sorry, Dan. He's earning it. But no, let's take a time out here, and we'll come back and we'll talk about what the hot topics are around the state here during the off season. This is the Purdue Crop Chat, and it's presented by the Indiana Corn Marketing Council and Indiana Soybean Alliance.
I'm Matthew Chapman, and I farm in Henry County, Indiana. Indiana Soybean Alliance and Indiana Corn Marketing Council invest checkoff dollars into building demand for corn and soybeans internationally. I've seen this work firsthand, and it's been eye-opening to see the growth in these markets, which also brings dollars back to our farms. Promoting U.S. corn and soybeans and increasing global demand is critical to the success of farmers right here in Indiana.
This message is brought to you by the Indiana Soybean and Corn Checkoffs.
We're back at the Indiana Corn and Soybean Innovation Center. Eric Pfeiffer here, and then award-winning Dan Quinn and Shaun Casteel.
He about called you Dan Casteel.
I about did.
Talk about a hybrid. Oh, my goodness. What would that look like?
Boy, that was bad.
Might even a retake on that one.
I'm human. But, award-winning. That's impressive, guys. I did just get back from our trip to the National Association of Farm Broadcasting. I didn't win a darn thing.
Did CJ win something?
CJ did win something.
So why don't we have him here to make it a trio of award-winning folks, right? Why are we getting the slot?
I will file your complaint, and your suggestion can go right in the suggestion box.
Yeah, filed with HR as we speak.
Yeah.
With your role too.
Yeah, it's too bad that HR is me. But no, CJ won the Horizon Award, which goes to a farm broadcaster that is in his first 5 years of farm broadcasting.
Oh, awesome.
And he obviously does great work for us. So very proud of him and excited about that. So, but me, I won absolutely nothing. I guess, a free trip on the company to Kansas City. They bought me Jack Stacks.
Hey, there you go.
A couple times actually.
Yeah.
Snuck out. Got some Jack Stacks.
Take what you can get.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your speaking tour. Dan was at the Beef House today. He's been other places getting fed.
Why do you think that's I go to some of these meetings, right?
That's why I'm in extensions for the food.
That's the only reason I'm in radio is for the free stuff, man. Most of the time it is meals.
We can get you a yellow hat.
I think I might have one somewhere. But no, Dan, what are the hot topics? What are we discussing here as we are in the quote unquote off season? Because people that aren't in the business, that's what they call it. You love that
question. All right, you're done in the field, so things slow down. It's like, no, it's just a different kind of fast.
It's just different stuff.
Yeah, we really switch gears this time of year, and I always get asked that question, right? Oh, you're going to be slowing down a little bit. You're out of the field now. No, it's just a different kind of busy. So yeah, a lot of speaking. Both of us. A lot of county meetings, but we have big conference too. Our CCA conference was this week. The meeting I was at in Covington today was combined with University of Illinois and Purdue as well. So yeah, we this is the time of year you really kind of get to gauge the pulse around the state. You get to hear a lot of conversations, have a lot of questions, and a lot of diverse audiences around the state. So I enjoy it from a standpoint of you kind of get an idea of, okay, what are the commonalities and the questions that are getting asked? So where's the sentiment at? And then also gauging, just how well the year went in terms of crop progress. I think the main thing on a lot of folks' mind is, just being efficient and trying to be as profitable as you can next year. So, but it's always, I say this with a lot of the farmers in the state is, they're always, they're very curious and inquisitive of trying to, figure out, is there, a certain tweak or something I can change or modify or something I can pick up that maybe just, moves the needle a little bit in their operation. So, we have a lot of great farmers, a lot of great consultants all around the state. So they're always trying to find that edge is what I say. And
silver bullet.
They're competitive, right? And that's okay. That's a good thing for a lot of them. So I think, you really start to understand, a lot of the commonalities and the questions and what they're after and stuff like that. And that's what I enjoy about this time of year and getting to travel around and have those conversations.
I was hosting a different podcast yesterday, and we were talking about the financial stuff and how farmers are tracking that. And it's like, it seems like now is the time that maybe they're getting into some of those things too. All the stuff that they didn't really have time for when they were harvesting for 18 hours a day, because that's about how it went. It was nice enough to do that. It's kind of catching up on that. And I don't know that I've ever heard of a farmer that got into farming so that they could run all the numbers. That's not really their favorite thing. But I mean, going through all the numbers and everything is kind of leading to some of these questions to you guys, right?
Yeah, you're not going to be in farming long if you don't run the numbers, right? I mean, the truth be told, I don't have a cast iron stomach to deal with some of that. And so, that's why I teach, right? The university instead of in the field. It's just one of those things. There's so much that goes into farming beyond just the agronomics of it, beyond the management of mechanical equipment, the marketing side of it. And so that's why, they do. All year long, and by coming to December, January, pull the numbers together. Trusted advisors, certified crop advisors, CCAs. That's one aspect of it. I was thinking about this again. That's one of the fun things about being on the road. My crew doesn't always like it because I get to think about different projects we could do. But I'm thinking about, okay, what area do I want to go into, whether it's personally or whether it's professionally? I was like, I would like to have a person to go talk to about that. I was like, I don't have the time to research that, because if I really want to get into it, I'm going to dive, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, and I just flat don't have the time. So have that trusted advisor to help with the marketing side of this, or the business plan, or to have those conversations with their banker if they're running an operating loan. So yeah, that's part of the business, and they need to have those trusted people to work through these situations.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is as you go to these and you hear from farmers, does it spark something in the way of, what, I really ought to do some more research on that? And does that go into your plan for this coming year?
That's the, huge benefit of what we do. It's like, okay, we want to be applicable. We have our own ways of thinking through, and our research leads us to this, or our observations, troubleshooting calls. But then it's like, you get a random question like, I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah. The idea of doing a ripper no-till system, like, okay, that works well for some of those down the southeast with soils that you don't contend with up on the sands. And so how can we look at that? So those questions come up all the time. Another one was, I did some desiccation work on soybeans a year ago. We didn't do anything this year, but they're like, it really helped us even the crop out, and we got out earlier. We're able to schedule. We say we do 100 acres because we know we can cover 100 acres with the combine, and so we could pace our soybean harvest. And I was like, oh yeah, let's also look at that. This conversation was 2 days old here, and they're like, we're already documenting those guys that are pushing the pencil. They're documenting their diesel usage in those situations. So beyond our agronomic and our back of the envelope partial budget, I don't bring in diesel usage because it's a little bit different when we look at that. So yes, there's a lot out there that sparks our interest in how we manage that and help them.
Yeah, that's a huge part of what we do, and probably one of my more enjoyable things that we're able to do is, and I would say, if we're not, doing research or, going after certain questions that people have that are applicable to them, what are we doing? Right. So yeah, it's, I really value the conversations, the questions, the comments, from the farmers as a whole, but you also take, CCA conference, right? Not a big farmer conference, but, a lot of crop consultants, a lot of industry folks, independent agronomists, retail agronomists that, have a lot of that maybe see things a little bit differently, but also interact with tons of farmers all around the state in different areas. And, they have their observations. They have, hey, have you looked at this or have you looked at that? So, we're always kind of keeping in the back of your mind of, okay, there's some questions in this area, right? You come back to, prime example, these biologicals a couple of years ago was every dang question we were getting at one of the meetings. So it's like,
are those slowing down now? Are people, doing kind of some of their own research and testing and trying to figure that out?
Well, I think foundation needs to be hit, and that's not exactly foundation. And so I think that's where there's some number crunching going on.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's where we get a lot of these ideas, and then just things to think about as we move forward, or even things we picked up things. Hey, maybe we could tweak our research trial this way, or I presented a research trial. Maybe we should sneak another treatment in to fit one of those questions or insights that we got at this meeting.
As we look to wrap up today's Purdue Crop Chat, I did just want to bring up. I'm currently part of the agricultural leadership program. Me.
Okay.
They accepted me and everything. Would you believe one of the people that wrote me a letter of recommendation? That guy over there to your left. Yeah.
I still haven't got my kickback on that. I'm waiting. It's the long games what I'm playing right here. There's a transaction fee. Is it $10,000 or $20,000 once you get?
But it really has been an incredible experience for me. And the reason I bring this up here is because we have a lot of farmer listeners to this podcast. And through our sponsors, the Indiana Corn Marketing Council and Indiana Soybean Alliance, they're actually offering a $1,000 scholarship for any full-time farmers to go through that program. So I wanted to make sure that I put that out there for folks, because it really has been an incredible journey. We're 9 sessions in now out of the 12 over the 2-year period. We spent a week in D.C., and then other times we just go all around the state. This past weekend, we were in Hammond, Indiana, and while we were up there, we went to Burns Harbor. We went up to the port there to check out the new Louis Dreyfus location there on the port. We went to the Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences. Really? It was the last working farm in Chicago.
Wow.
It was really neat, and the kids are awesome, just awesome. And it's experiences like that. And then here in February, we're taking off for our 2-week international trip. And you know what? You just might get CJ if you guys go to Commodity Classic and want to do a podcast, because I won't be able to be there. I'll be in Ghana or Kenya at that time. So
that's great.
It's such a great experience. It's a $6,000 investment by you or your company, your farm, whatever the case may be. But again, if you were a full-time farmer, you can get a $1,000 scholarship to go towards that price. And all the stuff and all the connections and everything you get out of it, it's really quite incredible. And if we've got some I know we have a lot of agronomists that listen to this. That some of them might express some anger because they use the word drouthy, and they might, take offense that I poke a little fun. But if you're interested in something like that, it's for anyone in the ag industry. Like, heck, they even took me. So I would strongly encourage that. Applications are being accepted through, I believe, January 19th. So agriinstitute.org if you want to check that out. Dan, final thoughts on today as we kind of move into this quote unquote off season, what folks should maybe be thinking about now, preparing for next year?
Yeah. We're doing a lot of this in terms of learning, and from a lot of our research, a lot of farmers take this time to learn what worked, what didn't this year, and apply it. And I think you can take a lot of what worked, but also what didn't work when you get into these more challenging economic areas that we're at now. But we're teasing through a lot of data right now. I think we're seeing some very interesting things. especially on the genetic side. That's something where just the way hybrids are different and the way they behave differently, and maybe there's some insight. Maybe we should be managing some differently than others, and quite a few different ways as well. So that's been really interesting. And then, some of the interactions with nutrition in corn has been really intriguing to me. We've done some nitrogen by sulfur work, really diving into really some of the tissue data and stuff like that, and just seeing, how high end rates can not only throw off N-to-S ratios in corn, but actually drive down the sulfur content and sulfur uptake in the plants. So, I think there's a lot of things that, we're continually learning in terms of, the way we manage things and refine management practices and stuff like that. But, from a farmer standpoint, right, you got a lot of data out there, and whether working by yourself or with trusted advisors and stuff like that, I think you can take and learn what worked, what didn't, and then try and take it to next year. And then, as a lot of farmers are going to these meetings, there are little nuggets, little things you can pick up that, hey, that may be worth trying here or there, or maybe that maybe, help my operation. A lot of these, I mentioned a lot of the questions, like, small tweaks, or, gave a talk, on sulfur and corn, and, questions of just, okay, hey, I was doing sulfur this way. What if I just shifted, this way? Maybe I put some through the planter and then instead of all side dress, or maybe I can change my source, right? Or these little tweaks that a lot of farmers are after. So, be inquisitive, constantly learning. I think that's a key. Learn from folks like ourselves, but learn from everyone. Learn from other farmers, learn from other consultants, stuff like that all over. So I think it's a great time to dive into that and see what we can either try or implement next year and go from there.
Shaun?
Yeah, when we look at the soybean side, and corn will be the same way. It's the reflection, taking the time. It's not just a nostalgic thing to do at the end of the year and thinking about your New Year's resolutions or anything like that. But it's like, okay, what worked this year? What didn't? And then to kind of put the whys to that, to explain it. And then how can I move that forward in the 26th season? And in particular, in a season when I personally, as an agronomist and as a farm kid, I think it's like, okay, economics are going to be a tough time on this. And so what do I need to absolutely do right every single time? And what can I cut? And so whether that's coming into this fertility discussion, if we've done a good job of maintaining, we don't need to have come back into it a crop removal type situation. We might be able to skip a little bit, look at where the price is on phosphorus or potassium, and see if that's, it's a little bit too high at this point. I can maybe pull back. I think there's some of those choices that have, and it can still be made for those that make some spring applications. Seed treatments are an area that I think on the soybean side that we can really start to cut some costs there and still have full yield potential. So look, okay, do I really need insecticide seed treatment? Probably not. Some of the seedling diseases to manage, fungicide seed treatments. And again, make sure they're hitting and addressing what issues you have. And then the follow-up, go back on your genetics comment, Dan, is, we continue to push soybeans earlier and earlier in planting, or they're standard down mid-Aprils, give or take, right? To do the next level of, okay, it's a little cost and investment for the cold germ test on those soybeans, but find out which lots, as you get them, have a little bit better vigor, a little bit better cold germ scores. So then those are going to be the ones I'm going to start with. So I'm not putting them into a stressful situation. So yeah, those are the big things I want to think about. Field prep. And I think we might bring this up in what have we learned from some of our 25 trials. I think maybe the teaser is that I'm tired of his corn residue, and I've got evidence now that beyond just me saying I don't like it. But again, for those that, no-till residue is good. It's just how do we manage that for that soybean crop? And I've seen enough, and I've got some documentation when it's not managed correctly. It's a 15% yield hit, as an example.
I heard that you have evidence of sabotage from the corn agronomist. That's what I heard.
I told folks at the couple conferences, I said, we want to push 300 bushel. I'm hoping 20 years from now we're pushing over 400 bushel. What goes along with that is stover, right? And total biomass. Yep. And, we've been working with short stature corn. The thing about that is it has very similar residue levels and surface residue levels. So yeah, I think, Shaun alluded to it, and I'm really interested in this topic too, because you hear about it from farmers too. It's machinery. Think about how big these machines
16
are.
rows at a time.
16 rows.
Yeah.
It can only spread so well the back of the machine. And as these yields keep going higher and higher, the amount of dry stover coming out of the back of the machines is also increasing. So it's something that's not going away. And really, we don't want it to go away because it's a function of yield. So, but yeah, it's something we really should be paying attention to, period. But it's only going to probably be more of an issue moving forward.
We just got a visitor. That's our first guest here on the
that's a sign.
on the Purdue Crop Chat here today.
At least it wasn't a crow.
Yeah, there's a bird that just flew right up here. If you could see through Shaun's head right now, you'd see
I'll
this
see
thing.
if it follows me.
Yeah,
Let's go over.
my goodness.
They'll be like right on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Probably want to crack it.
Yeah, that's Shaun's parrot. Well, guys, I tell you, I've got to get to a basketball game. It's again, this will come out on Monday or something. But high school basketball Friday night. That's where I'm headed. Dan's got to go polish his award, his prize, and cuddle with it. Old man Casteel here needs to go take a nap. He's been talking about how I'm
tired. Man, I'm gonna put the firewood in, get the fire going. Sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot, and we will do this again here maybe sooner rather than later like we did this time.
It might be another year, but we'll do it.
We'll get around to it.
Probably 2026.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
This has been Purdue Crop Chat, a regular series featuring Purdue Extension's Dr. Dan Quinn and Dr. Shaun Casteel, made possible by the Indiana Corn and Soybean Checkoffs, the Indiana Corn Marketing Council, and the Indiana Soybean Alliance. The Checkoffs are pleased to help bring you agronomy insights from Purdue Extension. Opinions on the podcast are those of the host and guests and not those of the sponsor. Purdue Crop Chat is a service of Purdue University Extension and Hoosier Ag Today. Timely, relevant, credible.